White ice stretches all the way to the horizon. Freezing wind blows through the cracks across the frozen surface. Dark seawater appears between drifting ice floes. Cold, silent, and deep. In the middle of a landscape that seems almost lifeless, a white wing glides past. It is so white that it nearly disappears into the snow. It is not as colorful as a bird of paradise. It is not as powerful as an eagle. It does not have the thunderous call of a great predator. But it is one of the most remarkable creatures of the Arctic. This is the ivory gull. A small bird, pure white, as if it were shaped from snow and ice itself. But do not let its fragile appearance deceive you. Behind that pure white plumage is a life more brutal than it seems. The place where it is born has no trees to protect it. The place where it searches for food is the frozen edge of the sea ice. The place where it raises its young is a lonely cliff battered by snow and wind. And every day, it must fly through a world that is changing faster than any generation before it has ever witnessed. This is not just the story of a seabird. This is the story of a fragile white shadow trying to survive in a melting Arctic. The Arctic does not welcome life easily. Here, winter lasts in darkness, temperatures can fall extremely low, the wind can sweep snow across the sea ice like white blades cutting through the frozen air. For many birds, this is no place to live. But for the ivory gull, this is home. It is tied to sea ice as if by fate. While many seabirds choose warmer coasts and easier islands, the ivory gull flies along the edge of the ice, where the sea and snow meet. There, rare signs of life appear in the open cracks of water. Small fish swim beneath the freezing surface. Crustaceans drift with the current. Seals rise to breathe through holes in the ice. Polar bears move silently across the frozen sea, hunting. And above it all, the ivory gull watches quietly. It does not need to stand out. It was born to blend into the snow. The white plumage of the adult bird allows it to nearly vanish against the icy background. Black legs, a dark bill with a pale tip, small but sharp eyes, always watching every movement across the sea. From a distance, it may look like nothing more than a white dot moving through the sky. But in the world of the Arctic, that white dot is a true survivor. The ivory gull does not hunt in a violent way. It does not dive like a falcon. It does not chase prey like a gerfalcon. It does not have terrifying talons. But it has another skill. It knows how to take advantage of every opportunity the Arctic allows. Along the edge of drifting ice, it searches for small fish, crustaceans, and marine creatures brought close to the surface. When the sea opens between the ice floes, the ivory gull flies low, watching the cold black water below. All it takes is one small movement. A flash of silver. A weak fish swimming near the surface. Instantly, it lowers its wings, glides down, and picks up the food with a quick movement of its bill. But there is another side to the life of this bird. A darker side. A harsher side. The ivory gull is also a scavenger. It often appears near places where polar bears have hunted. When a bear brings down a seal, the remains become a source of life for many other creatures. And the ivory gull is often one of the first to arrive. It lands on the ice, keeps a safe distance, and waits for its chance. A few small scraps of meat, a leftover piece of carcass, a little fat in the freezing season. Everything has value. In the Arctic, nothing is wasted. One death can feed many lives. And that is what makes the beauty of the ivory gull so striking. It is white as snow. But its life is sustained by some of the harshest things nature leaves behind. When the short Arctic summer arrives, daylight stretches across the sky. The ice begins to crack. The wind remains cold, but the sun stays longer. This is when the ivory gull enters its breeding season. They do not build warm nests on tree branches. Because here, trees almost do not exist. Instead, they seek out remote cliffs, cold islands, bare rocky ground, or high places where predators have difficulty reaching them. A pair of ivory gulls chooses a nesting site. There are not many materials available. Only a few pieces of dry seaweed, grass, moss, mud, stone fragments, or whatever they can find in this harsh land. Their nest is simple, small, almost too modest to be called a nest compared with the nests of birds that live in warmer places. But for the ivory gull, all it needs is a place high enough, sheltered enough from the wind, and safe enough to hold its eggs. That is already hope. The female lays 1 to 2 eggs. Both parents take turns incubating them. In the cold wind, they sit low over the nest, using their bodies to shield the fragile eggs. Every strong gust can become a test. Every late snowfall can become a threat. Every time one bird leaves the nest to search for food, the other must stay alert. Because in this land, new life is always being watched. An ivory gull egg must not only survive the cold, it must also survive predators. In some areas, Arctic foxes may wander near nesting colonies if they can reach them. Larger gulls, birds of prey, or skuas may target eggs and chicks. Even the weather is an invisible enemy. A sudden storm can prevent the parents from finding food in time. An unusual ice season can make food scarce. A season when the ice melts too quickly can change flight routes, feeding areas, and the hunting patterns of the entire ecosystem. On the cliff, the chicks begin to hatch. They are tiny, weak, and covered in soft down. They cannot find food for themselves. They cannot fully keep themselves warm. They cannot fly. Everything depends on their parents. Every journey the adult birds make out to sea is a gamble. If they find food, the chicks gain 1 more day of survival. If they return empty-billed, the entire nest becomes weaker. In the Arctic, life does not grow through ease. It grows through every small meal, every moment of shelter from the wind, and every night survived in the cold. Day after day, the pair of ivory gulls takes turns flying out to the ice edge. One bird stays behind to protect the nest. The other leaves the cliff, gliding through freezing currents of air, searching for open water. Below, the ice is no longer seamless. Separate floes drift slowly across the dark water. Far away, a polar bear follows the trail of a seal. Elsewhere, walruses rest on the ice. The ivory gull flies over it all. It searches for opportunity. The remains of a seal. A small school of fish near the surface. A piece of food washed onto the ice by the waves. When it finds food, it immediately turns back. At the nest, the chicks lift their heads and wait. Their tiny calls echo against the cold cliff. The parent lands and delivers food to them. The moment is brief, but deeply meaningful. One small meal can be the difference between life and death. Day by day, the chicks grow. Their down begins to change. Their small wings begin to move with more strength. They practice standing on the rock. They practice keeping balance in the wind. They begin to look out into the vast open world ahead. Below them is the icy sea. Above them is the Arctic sky. And one day, they will have to leave the nest. But the world these chicks are about to enter is no longer the same world their parents knew. The sea ice is changing. Familiar feeding grounds may disappear earlier. The distance to find food may become greater. The signs that once helped ivory gulls survive for generations are no longer certain. For a bird so deeply dependent on sea ice, every small change in the Arctic can become a major challenge. When the ice melts quickly, the ice edge moves. When the ice edge moves, the food source changes. When the food source changes, the parents must fly farther. And when the parents must fly farther, the chicks must wait longer in the cold, in hunger, and in danger. A powerful wind sweeps across the cliff. The chicks stand close together. One of them flaps its young wings and looks down into the open space below. This is the moment every creature born in the wild must face. The moment of leaving protection behind. The moment of turning fear into instinct. It jumps from the edge of the cliff. Its gray-white wings open in the wind. For a few seconds, it falls. Then the wind lifts it. Not perfectly. Not steadily. But it is flying. A new generation of ivory gulls has entered the Arctic sky. As a cold sunset settles over the ice, a white wing glides across the Arctic Sea. It is small in a world too vast to measure. But within that small body is an astonishing power to endure. The ivory gull is not the loudest bird. It is not the strongest. It is not even one of the most famous. But it is a silent symbol of the Arctic. A creature born from ice, living by ice, and now facing a future where the ice is no longer certain. In its pure white feathers is a story of adaptation. In its small wings is a journey of survival. And in its call across the snow-filled wind is a reminder that some fragile forms of beauty can only exist while their world is still protected. The ivory gull is not just a white shadow in the Arctic sky. It is the soul of snow and ice. And as long as that bird still flies, the Arctic still has a story to tell.